Sup, chat? We're back. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Trek the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. Yes, we have some more to go through. I did promise we were going to have at least one more Mushoku Monday. No matter what, I was going to find something to put together. And I was this close, to be honest, I was this close to just making this Mushoku Monday be the last one. I get on here, do a wrap up, do some tier list updates, say sayonara, all that kind of stuff, and just call it a wraps. But I went over to Lucius. Everybody in the chat, please, a massive respect for Lucius. One, because a lot of what we've covered over the last, probably year has been thanks to him and the efforts of all the translation that was being done to get this stuff to us for me to be able to have them on Mushoku Monday. This literally wouldn't be happening for last year if it weren't for, him and other people. But anyways, I know a while back when I finished the main line and the redundancies and all that kind of stuff, I was basically like, okay, I'm going to do Rockets Get Serious and that's it. And a lot of people were upset because I did make a comment about doing everything. And yes, there is a lot of Asia exclusives and again releases in mangas, and this Blu-ray had some chapter in it, just tons of stories that are just scattered everywhere. And I looked through those and I wasn't too impressed, to be honest. I was looking through it and I'm going, there's nothing here to really chew on. It's okay, Rudius made a meal and then they tried it and yummy. It's these just spin-off chapters, which I think would be great if I read them in the time of the story, this random little interaction between two characters in volume 3. I mean, it would fit so perfectly if it was in that volume and I read it at that time, because it would be in context and it would, and just enhance that moment to give a little slice of life moment. But overall, when I was looking through them, I just wasn't impressed by the stories. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm getting to a point now where I'm kind of pushing it too much. Viewership is coming down. It didn't seem like people were really interested in a lot of this side stuff. That maybe it's time to call it quits and move on. But like I said earlier, as I was contemplating cutting it off here, I sent Lucius a message and I said, hey, I'm not getting anything out of these side chapters. Is there something in there that you can say, dude, you need to cover these ones? And he just went through a massive list of a whole bunch of the ones that I didn't even see when I was skimming through and trying to find something. That did sound interesting. He kind of gave me a quick 4-word, idea of what that chapter is about. And I went, that sounds interesting. That sounds interesting. And I pretty much just took them, threw them all into a document. And I got about 8 stories. There's much more stories than that. And I could at some point come back and we can get into them. But I think these are the ones. Now, we could get through these and then somebody else kind of chime in and, we get some approvals from people that, no, this one you have to cover. But I think these 8 are it. So, by all accounts, I'm pretty sure this will be it. Now, I don't know if this will be 2-part Mushoku Monday for these little side stories or if it'll be 3 parts. But we'll see as we get through them. But that's a lot of, that's a lot of setup for me to say, hey, chat. Welcome to the Mushoku Monday. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week after Mushoku Monday. I greatly appreciate your guys' kind words, your support, all that stuff. It means a great, great deal to me. It's because of you guys that we got this far, that I've pushed to literally be scrounging into these side stories to find something else. That's the key thing there. Is we've done everything. It's just there's these little side stories over here that are spread throughout and sprinkled throughout history of Blu-ray releases and stuff like that we're now having to scrounge for. We're literally trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel. That's how amazing this entire journey has been. And again, I couldn't have done it without you guys. I literally could not have done any of this. And I say it every single week, and I try to make it a point to say it every single week because it's that important to me. Like last week. Last week, some insane support. We had Orsted Cultist with 31 months at this point. Thank you so much, Orsted. Sub with the super. Thank you so much for your support. Poor Subver over there had the idea that was the last one. I'm sorry. He's like, it's been so long and now it's over. I'm like, dude, no, chill. And we also had Blue Baron. Blue Baron with, I think it was 20 total memberships. It may have been 30. At least 20 memberships. Thank you so much for those 20 memberships. Just sprinkling out the emotes for everybody. And as well as a massive, gearless levels of a massive super. Thank you so much, Blue Baron. It means a great deal to me. Again, it means a lot to me based on the fact that you guys are partnering with your hard-earned money to make this happen, to keep the lights on, keep things going. I greatly appreciate it. But anyways, all that mushy stuff out of the way, we should get into it. Like I said, for context here, these are labeled as Asia exclusives. They're basically, again, different stories that are in different locations. Some of them are in, like, you know, the complete set of, like, the volume 6 or, like, the light novel release of it. Some are over here, some are over here. They're just kind of scattered around. But the unfortunate thing is that there's stuff that's probably not going to come over here. These are probably going to be stuff that we will never have 7 Seas ever touch it, unfortunately. They just have no desire to go after them, nor do I know if they can even get them. But either way, let's get into it. The first one we have is called The Ancient Tomb. This happened when we were traveling from the Kingdom of Sharon to the Kingdom of Asra. As usual, I was sitting atop a carriage, enduring the pain in my ass while crafting a reserved figurine. Meeting Zenoba had significantly boosted my creative drive. After all, creating things feels much more rewarding when someone appreciates them. For damn sure. I mean, that's literally my content right here. To get into side tangent already, that's literally my content. I just literally gushed about that earlier. Like, having people that appreciate what you do is like, that just boosts you. That just keeps you fueled. Although making figurines of a demon like the reserved one doesn't often garner much praise these days, receiving compliments from connoisseurs like Zenoba made all the effort feel worthwhile. What are you grinning about? Edis was practicing her sword on the shaking carriage, performing something akin to a sword dance. She said it was trained to fight without stumbling on unstable ground. At first, it was precarious, and every time the carriage jolted, her sword would dangerously swing close to me. But recently, she had become quite stable. Honestly, watching her can still make me feel anxious. But I've resigned myself to the fact that even if she falls and gets injured, we can always heal her with magic. Reserve should be watching over us from the driver's seat too. He's watching, right? I'm just happy to be appreciated. As I said this, Edis stopped her movements. She crossed her arms and looked down at me with her usual pose. Was she waiting for a compliment? She's probably going to compliment you. I thought I complimented her fairly often, but then again, compliments are always welcome, no matter how many you get. Oh well, I guess I should praise her. Maybe something like, Edis, your chest has been growing lately and looks lovely. Oh wait, that might get me punched. That's just sexual harassment. Rudius, you're amazing. See, I knew it. She's all about praising him. But I couldn't say anything. She complimented me. Oh my, Edis, praising someone like me, even when the first thing that came to my mind was a sexual harassment. If that's the case, I should return my favor. Thank you. You're amazing too, Edis. You train diligently, every day without skipping. Of course, that should be safe enough. Still, I can't believe Edis picked up on the mood and praised me. I mean, that's true. And this is technically implying this is like, while they're still traveling. This is before Orsted, right? Yeah, if they just left Zenoba, and they're going up to Asra, yeah. So they haven't met Orsted at this point. And she's already training. I mean, she was training the entire trip, but yeah. We've been through a lot since the Demon Continent, and Edis has grown too. As we were talking, the carriage came to a stop. It wasn't a sudden halt, but a gentle one, at the same pace as a horse. We just had lunch, and it wasn't late enough to set up camp. Maybe it was nap time. Come on, we're not kindergartners. What's going on? I stuck my head out of the carriage and looked at Rejered. He was staring off to the left. Following his gaze, I saw a dense forest. Was there a monster? No. I thought this area looked familiar. So, it wasn't that. What's familiar? Edis, who had been training moments ago, also poked her head out. She was lightly sweating. That wasn't an issue, though. She was leaning heavily on me, resting her chin on my head. I could feel something soft in my back, and I wished she'd ease up a bit. I fought around here a long time ago. Was it during the Laplace War? Tell me about it. All right. This was when we acquired the cursed spears. Edis leaned even further forward, prompting Roger to narrow his eyes nostalgically and begin his tale. Over in this area? That's interesting. That's very interesting. It's strange, but the usually taciturn Roger becomes somewhat talkative when recounting his past. The war's outcome wasn't a fond memory for him, but not everything about it was bad. Yeah, and again, this would be, before the whole incident with Orsted, which again, following that incident, Rudius gets a little bit of input on the curse itself that he gives to Rejered, which does help him out a lot. So it kind of sucks this like right before then. And again, Rejered's perspective on the whole situation changed a lot at that point. I guess this is like Grandpa's old war stories. Maybe when I get older, I'll start sharing stories like this too. Yep. when we had nearly conquered the demon continent and were about to invade the human territories. We were ordered to scout their defenses. I led a team of 5 elite soldiers across the sea to this area. Before invading other continents, the demon god Laplace sent reconnaissance team to gather intelligence. Regerd and the other superb warriors infiltrated the central continent, investigated the political climate, potential strategic points, and creating maps. Interesting. I can see that, but it's kind of interesting to see that the superb at this point were still, like, of mind enough to be able to do that kind of stuff. At first, things went smoothly for Regerd's team, but as a group of spear-wielding demons, they were eventually suspected of being spies by one country and had to flee. If you're mapping out other countries, it's natural to be suspected. Not just suspected, they were genuine spies. Again, that was one of the nice, interesting things that they got into, which makes a lot of sense at some point, was the idea that there was not a lot of, like, detailed maps of areas. And it makes perfect sense because if people had, like, willy-nilly maps of your area, they know places to get into. I doubt that Kingdom imagined they were advanced troops sent by the demon god for an invasion. Despite being pursued, Regerd and his team, who were battle-hardened from the demon continent unification war, continued their reconnaissance while fending off their pursuers. However, the commotion grew, and they eventually became wanted men. Most bounty hunters who came after them were easily defeated. But, however, there was one particularly strong man amongst the bounty hunters. He led a group of skilled adventurers and overwhelmed Regerd and his team, using not only his swords, but martial arts, combining fists and kicks, an unusual fighting style. It sounds North God. Sounds very North God. Though they kept retreating and managed to reach the neighboring kingdom, he persistently chased them. It was like he had a grudge against them, but it was likely that he was just extremely wary of Regerd and his group. A few demons were conducting obvious strategic maneuvers. It seemed the turmoil of the demon continent had ended. If so, could they be planning to invade the human territories? Even I could imagine such a scenario. Though if it were me, I'd probably dismiss it like, no way, most people would. There had been thousands of years between the Second Human-Demon War and the Laplace War. During that time, humans had oppressed demons, so they were likely complacent. That's very true. That's very true. No way those inferior beings would wage war against us. Ha, you must be joking. That's usually how a lot of kingdoms become overthrown, is because they get too cocky like that. Again, that was the warning that Ariel got. You need to stop this. They're getting too weak. Derek was trying to push up on her. You're too lazy. You're full and drunk of yourselves. You're going to be overcome. People tend not to question what has always been. Anyways, let's move on. Regerd and his team, seeing no chance of victory, tried to escape, but the lack of familiarity of the land led them to be cornered. Regerd and his comrades steeled themselves. They could ambush in the forest and gamble on defeating that man, or one of them could stay behind and delay the pursuers while the others escaped. They chose the latter. They drew lots, and the chosen man stayed behind. I argued that we should all fight together. Naturally, the priority was return with the information. Having been advised of this, Regerd left his comrade behind and managed to evade the pursuers. That's a bummer. The one who stayed behind inflicted serious wounds on the enemy, forcing them to retreat. Regerd swore to avenge his comrade when they eventually invaded the central continent and returned to the demon continent. I wonder if it's going to get into exactly that individual. I don't think they've ever mentioned a person like that before, so I don't think it's going to be anybody, like, of note. It was around here that we left him behind. Regerd said, his face mixed with nostalgia and sadness. It's hard for me to believe that he can pinpoint the spot just by the shape of the forest and the mountains. But, well, if it left such an impression on him, he must be right. Yeah, I can see that. A very, for him, not traumatizing, probably not the best word there, but very difficult moment of his life. Ez had been listening intently, but seemed to lose interest when it got to the part about the comrade's death, settling with a response. It wasn't that she found it boring, she was just being considerate in her own way. Well, let's stop and pay our respects. Maybe collect his bones if we can. I doubt there's anything left. Regerd said that with a wry smile. We found it about 100 meters into the forest. In short, it was a monster's nest. It was a home of white spotted rats, monsters similar to the flying squirrel that often lived around here, called white giant flying squirrels. They were just over a meter in length. Though small for monsters, their tactic of gliding at high speeds from the treetops and slashing adventurers' necks made them a significant threat. Yeah, depending on how fast they are. They were considered D-rank monsters in this area. By the way, D-rank is a level where new adventurers are advised not to engage. Humans are generally weak against three-dimensional movements. Naturally, we had no trouble dealing with those creatures. and the swarm of monsters became both a source of income and ingredients for our dinner. What they had been using as a nest was a moss-covered stone box. It was quite dirty, likely because it had been used for a monster's den. However, it was unusually well built for something made by monsters. The stones appeared to be properly cut, and upon closer inspection, the structure was intricate and precise. It reminded me of the stone walls found in Japan. Is this a grave? There was nothing like this before. Are you sure this is the place? Yes. Richard, expressionless, looked down on the stone box and quietly said, but it certainly looks like a grave. Bones are buried beneath this. Whether they belong to him or not is uncertain. Well, if bones are here, it's definitely a grave. It might have nothing to do with his acquaintance. Thinking this, I used earth magic to create a bucket and filled it with water. Rudius, what are you doing? Where I come from, it's customary to clean stone graves like this. We didn't have many cleaning tools, but we could at least scrub off the moss. Fortunately, we had a brush for cleaning the carriage. Here you go. I handed the bucket of water to Richard, who silently began cleaning the shrine. Edis grumbled. Cleaning, really? But reluctantly followed suit. I don't think it's for him. I mean, it would be like one of those aspects where this hunter, this bounty hunter, would be somebody that's like, potentially respectful to his foe, that he sees the superb as warriors that are worthy to be buried, or just in general, they're somebody that sees that as a sign of respect. Other than that, I don't see why somebody would bury them. After a while of cleaning, we discovered some writing carved into part of the shrine. What? It was hidden by moss, but there are words written here. Words? Maybe it's a treasure map. I just understand you're getting bored with this cleaning, but expecting treasure in an old grave is a bit much. It's more than likely we'll find something disappointing, like an old stash of Grandpa's adult videos, leaving the whole world, leaving the whole family let down. Even if it was a treasure map, it's probably long gone by now. Well, let's see what it says. Let's have a look. As I cleared away the dirt and moss, meaningful words emerged. Here lies a brave demon warrior. Yeah, like I said, unless it's somebody that sees them with respect. He was a bounty hunter that had respect for his bounty. They fought us off, and additionally, could see, he says brave there, have a lot of respect for somebody that stays behind and supports his men as they flee. A typical inscription. It was hard to read, but that's what it seemed to say. The difficulty in reading something as likely came from the fact that it was carved 500 years ago. The grammar is different from modern times. Well, looks like the pursuers from back then honor the warrior who stayed behind and fought to the end by going out of the way to build a grave for him. That's typical. Edis said. Her face was shining with excitement. She surprisingly enjoyed stories like this. Well, the truth is always boring. Wait, what? As I continued cleaning, I noticed there was some more characters below the inscription. No, they weren't characters. Was this a crest? It looked familiar. That's it. I saw this on the monument of the 7 great powers. I don't remember which crest it was. Richard, do you know this crest? Yes. Richard seemed shocked as he looked at the symbol, but he answered. It's the crest of the Dragon God. The Dragon God, one of the 7 great powers. 2nd rank, if I remember correctly. It wasn't that high back then. It should have been lower. So, does that mean your comrade held off someone who later became 2nd rank of the 7 great powers? The strong pursuer was that person? That's amazing! Edis was excited. After all, while being pursued, they managed to escape from one of the world's 7 strongest. However, Richard shook his head. No, it was another man back then. The one who defeated Laplace and rose to 2nd place was another. Yeah, again, because this is before then. Despite saying this, Richard had a slight smile on his face. But yes, this comrade faced a formidable enemy and sacrificed his life to let us escape. I am proud of him as a warrior of the superb race. There was a shadow on his proud face, probably because he knew what happened to Superb afterwards. He might feel proud of his comrade, but perhaps not of himself. Alright, this should do. After a while, we finished cleaning. The stone grave that emerged from the moss was cracked and chipped, far from pristine, but I used earth magic to make some quick repairs. Rudius, what is it? Thank you. Don't mention it, Dad. Normally, he would respond with a, I'm not your dad. But this time, Richard just smiled softly. Just accept it. Just accept it. Maybe Richard had indeed become like a true father to me. However, I already have a father named Paul. I can't just overlook him and acknowledge a new one. Or maybe he just gotten used to my jokes. Still, after all this time, I've lost the drive for revenge. Maybe the dragon god of that time got so afraid of your revenge that he built such an impressive grave. That's not true. Roger looked at me as if to say, you know better. He showed respect to a warrior who fought bravely. Yep, you're right. That was a thoughtless remark. I might have gone a bit too far with my light-hearted comment. I had just been thinking that it was better to give praise. Yet here I was failing at it. But still, this had been a while since we first met. Roger would likely have grabbed my collar and glare at me, baring his teeth. Consider that Roger's expression now was much gentler. It showed that we'd built a strong bond of trust. Rudis, thanks to you, we found the grave. I appreciate it. You're welcome. Now, let's head to the Kingdom of Asura. Yes. Feeling a pleasant sense of camaraderie, we returned to the carriage. Our journey to the Kingdom of Asura continued. Slowly but surely, we moved forward, accumulating small experiences along the way. Yeah. Some really, really big experiences eventually. Some really big ones. That was a good little chapter there. A little bit of a cameo from the Dragon God. That was an interesting one. Let's go into his spear is a little short. This is apparently supposed to be a Resurge story about his past. This one was like the first one that like caught my attention of like, okay, I guess we can do this. Resurge Superdia. He was born into a warrior's couple of the Superd tribe, a boy who was stubborn and inflexible. However, he was exceptionally strong in fights. From the time that his tail fell off until he reached adulthood, he never lost to anyone his age. It wasn't because of superior strength or agility. There were certainly some children who had better physiques than him, nor was it because he was superior reaction speed. There were children who could react faster than him. Of course, he was amongst the top of both categories amongst the children, but still, what set him apart was his situational awareness and decisiveness. He could make the optimal choice without hesitation, allowing him to seize victory by recognizing the opportunity to win, no matter how strong his opponent was. Moreover, he was a hard worker. From a young age, he never skipped his daily training and always asked his father for more. He had talent, suitability, and a drive to act. With such qualities, success was inevitable. After reaching adulthood, Resurge Superdia quickly arose to prominence and eventually became a warrior chief in just a few decades. This was an exceptional occurrence in the long history of the Superd tribe. However, his rise wasn't solely because of his excellence. It was also due to war. Since the end of the Second Great Human-Demon War, thousands of years had passed. The Demon Continent had experienced a long period of peace, though it faced considerable oppression from the other races, but there was no major wars in over 1,000 years. Amidst this, turmoil erupted in the Demon Continent. A man named Laplace emerged and began subjugating the Demon Kings, who reigned over the Demon Continent one by one. The Demon Kings either fought or were defeated and joined his ranks without resistance. Laplace never experienced a single defeat and was on the verge of unifying the Demon Continent. His influence eventually reached the Babinos region, home to many Superd settlements. Like other races, the Superd tribe had to choose whether to resist or submit to Laplace. The tribe was divided into two opposing factions. The elders opposed submission. They had lived since the time of the great demon empress Kishirika Kishidishu and participated in the Second Great Human-Demon War. Their loyalty to Kishirika remained strong, and they refused to bow to a mysterious newcomer. On the other hand, the young people chose to embrace Laplace's cause. His vision of unifying the Demon Continent and invading the lands of other races to claim fertile lands seemed very appealing to them. The promise of rectifying their current status as despised and enslaved beings resonated deeply with the young, who did not remember the devastating defeat of the Second Great Human-Demon War. Normally, the elders' opinions would prevail. The Superd tribe, knowing their longevity, placed great weight on the words of the elders. However, too much time had passed since Kishidisu's era. The number of dissatisfied young people was overwhelmingly large, and their momentum was strong. The elders did not view the current situation favorably either, and they had already realized that their time had passed. Kishirika's influence had weakened, and there wasn't enough loyalty left to overturn the young people's decision. When the Superd tribe joined the Laplace's army, a generational change occurred. The Superd tribe was divided into those who stayed in the village and those warrior groups that went to war. The warriors were chosen from the best of the Superd tribe, and the strong amongst them would become the warrior chief. Before joining Laplace's army, a festival was being held, and all the warriors participated in a knockout tournament. Roger was the last one standing. Thus, Roger became the warrior chief and led the warriors into Laplace's army. If it weren't for the war, it would have taken him hundreds of years to become the warrior chief. Yep, just the circumstances of what's going on. Very interesting to get into the whole idea of those that are, long-lived, that has experienced this war. I mean, that is technically true to life. You have individuals that have, sort of experienced life, and this has been their whole life, their entire life. And then you have those that are like, no, I experienced when we had this, and then it was shattered, and we were stomped. We've seen the devastation of that war. You can't do this again. And these people are like, we have no choice. We're tired of this, and we don't know what you're talking about there. We haven't experienced that. All we know is this isn't good. So let's try to overcome this. But no, you don't understand it. It's devastating. We don't care. We don't know what you're talking about. I can see that. But yeah, very interesting to have like this in moment where they all have their moment to shine, and Roger's the one that stands up and wins in the end. Again, that makes sense because of the youth. It seemed like he was the strongest. And again, he had sort of it seems to imply more of an idea that he's not superior in this or this, but he's great in both. Whereas you might have some individuals that are like more in one way or the other. When Roger was appointed as the warrior chief, he married a woman named Lovelia. Lovelia was older than Roger and not a warrior. Unlike most of the superb tribe, she was not adept at fighting and was more active in managing household and village matters. She was a cheerful girl who treated everyone equally, making her popular amongst the young warriors. Roger was already a stubborn man who didn't say much at the time, and many of his peers and elders thought, I don't really understand that guy. Stop for a minute here. I like the idea they're pointing out the fact that she's, not a fighter. She's good at managing the household and village matters. I mean, not the cheerful girl part. It was like, this sounds like Norn. Okay, maybe that's not so much Norn, but the first part sounds like Norn. Many of the peers and elders thought, I don't really understand that guy, or he always seems angry and scary. Lovelia was one of the few who understood him. She had looked after him like an older sister when he was young. Roger was a stubborn child who often didn't listen to his parents, but he usually heeded Lovelia's words. Aw, big sis. That's probably why the tribe leader paired her with Roger, hoping she would act as a leash. Whether that strategy worked or not was unclear. However, Roger and Lovelia had a child together. From the outside, they appeared to be a loving couple. Welcome back, dear. How was your expedition? Whenever there was a major battle, the Roger tribe would return to the Babanos region and their homes. When Roger returned home, Lovelia would eagerly engage him in conversation. It was a great victory. Demon King Atofartof surrendered, and the great demon empress Kishidishu is dead. But the demon king Badigadi is engaged and has declared an all-out war against us. Badigadi? The demon king who served as a strategist for the demon army in the last war? Is everything going to be all right? Nothing has changed. As always, Lord Laplace will conquer the city of Rikarasu and defeat Badigadi. By the time the superb tribe had joined, Laplace's army was already formidable. Several belligerent demon kings and warrior races had joined his cause. Moreover, Laplace, the supreme commander, was wise and always fought winnable battles. Even in battles they couldn't win with ease, he devised strategies to minimize casualties and executed them flawlessly. At least after the superb tribe joined, they never lost a battle. I mean, just with their strength alone, I would assume. But this is actually very interesting to get in the idea that Laplace himself is a supreme commander. I mean, I would assume this is going to be the case, that they're going to be very wise and have all these strategies, but we just never really kind of talked about it, really. Or at least not in much detail. Are you sure? That person is exceptional. We can trust him and follow his lead. Within the vast army, the superb tribe was especially valued. They were paired with a Migger tribe who could communicate over long distances via telepathy, and were deployed at crucial moments in every battle. Okay. I don't think that's ever been mentioned before. Interesting. Again, the Migger tribe and the Superbs were always paired. They did talk about that. They did talk about in the past that they were like sort of like together, that they were always paired together, and that people often group them together. This is kind of giving it a strategic thing that was in the Laplace War. That they were having the Migger tribe members, go along with each of the groups of the Superbs and have them communicate to each other. I didn't know that they had distance telepathy. Like, I knew that they could talk to each other from a distance, obviously. I just didn't know, like, a long distance? I mean, this could be like guerrilla warfare. The idea they could be, like, in some forest area, within, like, I don't know, 30 feet. They can communicate without, having to speak. And they can sort of just, like, talk, tell the Superb what to do. Yeah, they're over here. I just talk to them. It could be something like that, like their radios, basically. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. This sort of implies to me this is great distances. Again, it says long distances. I wonder how long distance. That's crazy. Cool Migger tribe lore. I don't think they've ever talked about the Migger tribe being involved in the war or how they were involved. But again, I do remember them saying that people often, again, put them two together. Yes, it was partly because of the hair, but they were actually talking about the two of them being in close. They were often together. I think they sort of imply the idea they were living together. Despite being newcomers, they were used as the key to victory in battles. As a result, they were able to achieve great military success in many combats, and the position of the superb tribe within the army rapidly rose. Before long, they became a core part of Laplace's army and were held in high regard. It's so funny that back here everybody loved them. They loved them until they got the spears and they started killing their own, then suddenly they don't like them. Laplace had high expectations for the superb tribe, and the superb tribe met those expectations. As a result, the superb tribe's loyalty to Laplace grew stronger. The warrior chief, Regerd, also came to trust Laplace and developed a strong sense of belonging to Laplace's army. Which is why eventually he's going to take up the spears. I like to see this story right here, by the way. I like this because this is showing that build up to why Regerd will eventually accept the spears. I think with all the tellings that we had before, it's like, then suddenly Laplace comes before the superbs and he threw down these spears and then they picked him up and they became crazy. That's not much of a story. That doesn't really give you a sense of why Superb did that. I know that Superb grows to obviously regret that significantly. I shouldn't have told them to pick up the spears. I cursed my own people by doing that. But what led him to say, yes, let's pick it up? Because he had a sense of belonging. He trusted them. They all trusted him. If you say so, then it must be all right. Yes. The conversation wasn't lively, but Lavilia smiled brightly. It was only she that could tell that Regerd was in a good mood. She was the only one who saw that Regerd was enjoying himself after joining Laplace's army. It's almost like Rudius and Orsted. You can kind of tell a little subtle change in his face. By the way, during this expedition, a child was born. Could you give him a name? Lavilia suddenly said, glancing at the corner of the room. There, a baby was sleeping. It's like, by the way, while you're gone, I birthed a child. What? The baby had a face that resembled Regerd's, but the eyes seemed to take after Lavilia's. Regerd glanced at the baby and then averted his eyes. Anything is fine. You name him. Okay. Lavilia chuckled and nodded without objection. She knew that Regerd was at a loss, although his words were dismissive. To Lavilia, it sounded like he was saying, I don't know what to name him, so please help me. Aww. Regerd stood in front of the baby, looking down at his face. As usual, he had a sour expression. Do you like children? I hate them. Why? Because I don't understand them. As Regerd said that, he gently extended his fingers towards the baby. The baby smiled and grabbed his finger. You're stronger than I expected. You were stronger. Naturally. Talking about when he was about the same age, Lavilia laughed. As she laughed, the baby suddenly started to cry. Why? Why is he crying? Regerd, wearing a stern expression, looked down and did nothing. I just broken. What'd I do? Lavilia smiled softly, picked up the baby, and rocked him gently while patting his head, tenderly, lovingly. The child quickly stopped crying. Hey, why don't you try holding him too? Just hold him like this and pat his head. No, I'm good, Regerd said. What filled his mind was the image of the enemy soldier that he had killed just the other day. The soldier was a warrior of the Toka tribe, known for their tough skin, but Regerd's spear had torn through that skin, and his fists had shattered his bones. The child before him seemed infinitely more fragile than that Toka warrior. Regerd felt that if he held the child, he might crush him. I see. A little bit of... I thought he was going to get into the idea that, obviously some of these tribes are going to go and kill... They probably kill the children too. I would hope this point we're at the point where they're not just slaughtering entire tribes. That might just be more the idea of them taking out the leadership and then, again, having all the, families and whatnot be serving the army. You don't want to kill the entire tribe. You want the tribe to be assets to you. So you just kill out the leadership and then you say you're going to be joining us no matter what. That kind of thing. But yeah, I can see that. That fear. I mean, me as an individual without having killed... I have a fear of harming a child. Yeah, everybody I think has the fear of if you don't hold it right, if you don't support it right, I might hurt it. Or what if I, trip? There's a fear that you have to get over for holding a child. Lavilia, perhaps unaware of Regerd's inner turmoil, continued to smile gently. Time passed once more. Sometime after Demon King Badigadi had been defeated, Laplace began to be known as Demon God Laplace. The Laplace army was also called the Demon God's Army, and with it, the Superb tribe's reputation rose significantly. They became so renowned that people said, where there is the Demon God Army, there's the Superb. Yeah? A bard who saw them once said, with green hair and white skin, wielding alabaster spears, the Demon God's minions hunt their prey endlessly. The Superb tribe, hearing this, proudly brandished their spears. We are the Superb tribe, swift and relentless hunters who pursue their prey to the ends of the earth, they proclaimed. In the demon god's army, everyone stepped aside for the superb tribe. Well, maybe not everyone. The demon king, Atafe Ratafe, for instance, would block their path and pick a fight. Some superb warriors fell victim to this, but they held no grudges. After all, their opponent was the notorious demon king Atafe. It was their own fault for catching her eye. Yep, I can see that being the only one they're not going to be able to step up to. As they fought through numerous battles and the demon continent was unified, the superb warriors were selected as Laplace's personal guard. Their duties remained unchanged, but their loyalty to Laplace grew stronger. Eventually, Laplace subdued the last of the demon kings and became the undisputed ruler of the demon continent. Next, they would finally invade the central continent and Millis continent. We're set to invade the central and Millis continent tomorrow. I won't be back for several years. Hearing this, Lavilia looked slightly lonely, but said nothing. The time when his son says he wanted to join. During wartime, it wasn't uncommon for couples not to see each other for years. May you have good fortune in battle. Under Lord Laplace's command, fortune in battle is assured. They were never a couple of many words. However, Rigerd had always returned home between battles. Despite his established position and numerous responsibilities within the Demon God army, he always made it back home. There was an indescribable sense of comfort at home, or rather, with Lavilia. Interesting. And this does sort of give a lot more weight to the fact that what unfortunately happens is the fact that he did care for that family. He did love that family. It's just an aspect of, again, him not being like this doting dad. Like, he's not this nurturing, doting dad. He's this very stern individual that has slowly over time learned some sort of semblance of love. At least an understanding or a comfort that is not anywhere else. He doesn't know how to describe it. He doesn't express the same way other people does, but he at least understands this is home. It's a universal language. This is home. Take that! A shadow of an assassin closed in on Rigerd. The assassin, who'd been hiding near the ceiling, saw Rigerd completely at ease and deemed it a perfect opportunity to strike. Ouch! A light sound echoed as the assassin tumbled and rolled. When Rigerd turned around, he saw a small child. The child still had a short tail attached to its rear and was holding a toy spear. The child jumped up, puffed out its chest, and looked at Rigerd. Then the child charged at Rigerd again, only to be effortlessly deflected once more. What are you trying to do? Recently, he's been participating in training sessions with his apprentice warriors. He probably wants to show you the results of his training. I see. During the war, the education of the superb children was conducted by those who remained in the village. Retired warriors who could teach the children how to use spears, and the children who would compete and train with each other, growing into warriors. Ideally, it was the duty of the parents to teach their children the way of the spear. However, with the ongoing war, this had become impossible, so the current system was the best solution. In the current superb education system, there was no room for parental involvement, yet children still wanted to show their parents what they had learned. When the warriors returned from their expeditions, the children would demonstrate their training results, and the parents would correct their mistakes and teach them their own techniques. Weren't you like that at his age? No, I learned everything about the spear directly from my father. That's right, isn't it? I wonder if that's going to be an element as why, well, not to say this to like be down on him, because again, Rigerd's supposed to be very powerful. He's very skilled. Again, he was the top of everything. He was the last man standing when it came to this big all-out brawl. He is very strong amongst all these superbs. So I don't expect his son to be able to be matched to him, but there's probably going to be an element here where his son's not good enough to be on the battlefield because, like many of these superb warriors, children that are left behind, they're not getting proper training from the most powerful. If they were still in the village, if they weren't out on war, these children would be getting proper training from the most powerful of the superb race. Right now, they're getting the leftovers, essentially. You know, injured individuals and whatnot. When Rigerd said that, he looked at the child. The boy once again puffed out his chest. Rigerd, recalling what his own father had taught him, began to speak. If you're going to launch a surprise attack, don't make any noises. When holding a spear, grip it closer to your body with your dominant hand. Otherwise, you won't be able to use your elbow properly. Rigerd, still wearing a stern expression, said those things. These were both lessons that he had learned from his father. However, the children's eye began to fill with tears. Wah! The child started crying and ran to the back of the house. Why is he crying? When it comes to times like this, you should just praise him. He's only just started. There was nothing worth praising. Why would I praise him? He sucks at it. What are you going to tell me? Good job at sucking, kid. Good job being terrible. What do you want me to praise? Your stance is horrible. Good job. You may think so, but this is his first time showing you. If he gets cut down at first sight, he'll lose his life. I suppose so. Livilia sighed, which was rare for her. Roger was incredibly clumsy when it came to dealing with children, and her stubborn husband was unlikely to change much. She worried that this would only end up being unfair to their children. What should she do? However, even if Roger didn't change, their child did. Lower your hips more. Don't rely on your tail for balance. Lower my hips more. Don't rely on my tail for balance. By the time Roger returned to the village a few more times, the child had grown accustomed to his father's mannerisms. Instead of seeking indirect praise, the child continued to directly request training and guidance, believing that one day it would lead to praise. That's good. That's probably a lot to do with the mother. I bet the mother instilled a punch of that into the child. But that's interesting right there. Lower your hips more. Don't rely on your tail for balance. I wonder why he would tell him not to rely on your tail for balance. Because you're going to lose it soon. That shit's going to fall off. Train until you can't stand no more. Keep training until I can't stand no more. Contrary to his expectations, Roger never praised him, but the child didn't mind. After all, he was a father to be proud of. Yeah, true. I mean, there's probably a lot to the strain to a child to have that expectation, but still, I mean, this kid's good to be kind of pushing that hard. The information coming from outside the village was mostly about the war, and nearly all of it praised Roger. Roger Superdia defeated a renowned warrior in a duel in a northern part of the central continent. He slew a rogue dragon that attacked their camp. He even angered the demon king Etofe, but managed to escape unscathed. Each piece of news contained at least one element that praised Roger. The child listened with pride and vowed to become like his father someday. Thus, he adored his father, even though he never received praise, asked for more training, listened to what he was told, and made it his strength. Roger didn't know this, but there was no way he would dislike a child who adored him. Aww. Though his way of showing affection was quite clumsy. I'm actually interested by this. I didn't actually think that they were really getting that far into the central continent before everything went downhill. I thought they got the spears while they were still subjugating the people in the demon continent. I didn't think they were crossing the sea already. That's the odd thing there. But again, a lot of the stories that we got around Roger specifically was like very quick summary that built into the big clashing moment. Again, was around the point where they got the spears, they went crazy, people didn't like them, and then he killed his family. And from that point, it pretty much skips to, Laplace. He's inexperienced, but he'll become a fine warrior in the future. Roger would say, never directly to the child, but to his wife, Livilia. He's your child, after all. That's true. Roger, unusually, broke his stern expression and lifted the corner of his mouth. Aww. Considering he used to say he disliked children, this was quite a change. Livilia, too, watched this change in Roger with a warm gaze. By the way, what's his name? That question left her momentarily speechless. By the way, his son's name was revealed. Revealed? Like Roger and Livilia, I'm guessing is a combination of those two names? Interesting. Children grow up fast. By the time the demon god's army had begun to slowly expand its territory into the central continent, Reveal's tail had begun to harden. Father, how did the battle go this time? We won, of course. But I heard we struggled quite a bit in the south. The south? Does that mean Lady Etofe? Yes. The woman is weak against trickery. Will she be alright? No need to worry. Thanks to the Red Dragon, the Lord of Laplace released. They can't coordinate well. Even if we're struggling now, it's only a matter of time. At that time, the situation was still not stable. In the southern part of the central continent, massive kingdoms were banding together to repel the demon god's army invasion. In the north, heavy snowfall slowed the advance, hindering their progress. However, it wasn't as if they were at a disadvantage. Laplace released a horde of red dragons into the mountains of the central continent, dividing the northern, southern, and western regions. Along with that, he employed divisionary tactics to concentrate the enemy's forces in one spot, then use the sea folk's mobility to launch a surprise attack from another direction, capturing a coastal nation. Again, Laplace is smart. Laplace is very, very smart. This isn't an aspect of like just pure brute strength. This isn't an aspect of like numbers, because again, the demons could have risen at any moment. They were just defeated. He banded them all together, and he's using his smarts along with the numbers that he has. This isn't just simply, I threw down some magical spears and Superbs destroyed everything I need to destroy. There's strategy to a lot of what he's doing here. And again, the humans had to, in a lot of cases, do the same thing. The demon god's army intended to use this foothold to continue their invasion. From Reserve's perspective, having come this far, it was only a matter of time. Humans are intelligent but weak. There was no way they could win against demons in direct confrontation. The next time I return, your tail might have come off. Yes, at some point, Reserve started looking forward to his son's growth. Aww. It's making me kind of wonder if they're going to add a little more context here as to his train of thought around telling his son no. And it might simply come to the idea that you're not ready. You don't know what you're going against. You're not strong enough. I kind of wonder if it might turn into a preservation thing. I don't want my son to die. At some point, Reserve started looking forward to his son's growth. Whether it was his spear skills or his movements, they still left much to be desired. But it seemed his son was brimming with potential as a warrior, garnering praise from the warriors protecting the village. As expected of your son, he's excellent. Such words made him feel proud, even though it wasn't about himself. However, he was somewhat concerned that, as a superb warrior, his son was slightly short and small. I guess that's to the title. He kind of mentioned it earlier too. The tail itself is short. He might, in general, just not have the body for it, which is unfortunate. A small body could be a disadvantage for a warrior. For example, a small person has a short tail. A short tail means a shorter spear, which creates concern about reach. The difference in reach could mean life or death in combat. Of course, Reserve himself wasn't particularly tall amongst the superb tribe, and he knew small warriors had their ways, and that a warrior's worth wasn't determined by their size. Yeah, if you have agility, you can easily overcome that. But interesting there that he's not tall amongst the superb tribe, because Reserve's always been sort of portrayed as very tall. I mean, compared to the characters that we kind of follow in this series, he's very tall compared to everybody else. That he's not the tallest of the tribe is crazy. I don't recall if they really talked about that when we eventually get to the superb tribe, if they were taller than him or not, or at least a height difference there. Even though he knew it was a trivial concern, he couldn't help but worry. Reserve's expression hardened more than usual due to this inexplicable emotion. If your tail comes off and you're recognized as a warrior, you will go to the battlefield. Still allowing it. As if to shake off this emotion, he said that, and his son looked up at him with a serious face, nodding with a sincere gaze. I look forward to fighting alongside you, father. Train well now, so you won't be a burden. Yes, imagining his son fighting under his command made Reserve's stern expression soften slightly. Dear, are you really sure the battle's going well? No problem. But you never come back at a time like this before. Ah, that's true. Indeed, things will get intense from here on. Lord Laplace has something to discuss, and I want to consult with the chieftain. Is it something you can't tell us? No. Well, it's the spears. At this time, Reserve and the other superb warriors were faced with a decision imposed by Laplace. It was about their spears. Laplace proposed bestowing a certain magical spear upon the superb warriors. To all of them, it was an honor. However, to the superb tribe, the spear is their very soul. Superbs were born with tails that harden and fall off when they became adults, transforming into spears. They live, fight, and die with that spear. It could be considered their alter ego. This is considered the best life for superb. Abandoning their spear and taking up another one is unthinkable. But the one offering these spears was none other than Laplace. Reserve and the other superb warriors trusted Laplace and swore allegiance to him. Could they easily refuse a spear offered by Laplace? Reserve had come to consult with the chieftain and elders about this. Consulting, yes. But more specifically, he wanted their backing. He wanted them to say that despite the spear being the superb's soul, loyalty to Laplace should take precedence in this war. However, the chieftains did not give Reserve the response that he had hoped for. The spear is the soul of the superb. Their pride. Discarding it is unthinkable. This response did not consider their loyalty to Laplace at all, which was hard for Laplace devoted Reserve to accept. Yeah, this almost feels like a... He's stuck between two sides here. The chieftains are going, no, that's like been our culture for like forever. That's our soul. Like you put that down, you lost half of you. I'm thinking from the vantage point of a person with the belief of a human soul. If half of my soul was in an object and I were to discard that, I would lose myself. I would completely lose myself. And the idea to take up something else and charge in the battle with is unthinkable. But from Reserve's perspective here of, being at Laplace's side for so long and seeing so many victories, winning so many battles, and being devoted and getting glory for it. Again, the superb tribe, which was seemingly nothing before, is now something. Everybody's looking to the superbs with great respect. The superb tribe has become like the core of this army. Everybody knows that. And here, he's seeing two different sides. We can't allow this, but you're also disrespecting him. You're disrespecting who we all look up to right now, who is saving the demon kind. Again, the demons were oppressed up until this point. They were oppressed by the humans and the other races. They were stuck on this desolate island over here. And now Laplace is taking them to these lush lands. We're about to win. The demons are about to win, and they're going to get all that land over there. It's over there, by the way, for you guys. It's over there for you guys. Sorry, I always forget that. I always forget that for you guys. It's unthinkable to disrespect that leader. So I can see both sides here. But this was just Reserve's perspective, not the consensus of all the warriors. Half of the warriors were also against changing their spears. Their concerns included a potential drop in combat effectiveness with an unfamiliar weapon and a vague fear of abandoning their traditions. However, they said they would ultimately follow his decision. If Reserve is taking it, I'll take it too. It was his decision to make. Again, that was what they implied before. They all followed him. Again, he seen it. I cursed them. It wasn't Laplace. He hated Laplace and he wanted revenge, but it wasn't his fault. I told them. They all said they really didn't want to do it, but I told them to. It's my fault. I cursed them. As the warrior chief and the most trusted warrior amongst the Superbs, it was up to Reserve. Of course, Reserve himself did not think it was a good idea to abandon his spear. Had anyone else suggested it, he would have instantly rejected it. But the one offering the magical spears was none other than Laplace. During the unification of the demon continent, Reserve had witnessed Laplace's wisdom many times. He had overturned disadvantages, using surprising attacks and strategies to subdue the demon kings. While wise men doubted victory, Laplace had always led them to triumph. Establishing a foothold on the central continent was largely due to Laplace's strategy. The rise in the superb tribe status was because Laplace had favored them greatly. That was why he thought, it's like I go through everything that I just said earlier. That's why he had thought Lord Laplace must have some plan. And so Reserve made his decision. He didn't think for a moment that his judgment was wrong. From this point, Reserve's memories rapidly became hazy. What he clearly remembered was the astonished faces of the warriors when they took hold of the magic spears. The power derived from the magical spears was so astonishing that even the seasoned superb warriors were taken aback. At that moment, none of them doubted Laplace. Receiving spears with such power meant that Laplace trusted the superb tribe the most within the demon god army and had high expectations for them. Hence, everyone generally believed that they had to fight with all their might to meet those expectations. There was no doubt those magical spears held immense power. Reserve himself could never forget the sense of omnipotence he felt when he first grasped the magical spears. From then on, it was a time of fierce battles. There was no time to return to the village. Fight, rest, fight again, rest a bit, and fight once more. I'm kind of surprised they're able to go back to the village so often. I kind of feel like this might be a little bit of a oopsie. Am I a little oopsie here, like being able to travel back and forth? I don't think they've ever implied the idea they were using teleportation. I mean, they could have been. They could have been using teleportation circles. It was a monotonous and brutal cycle. He remembers none of the details, just a vague recollection of searching for enemies, finding them, and slaughtering them, attacking the enemy army from the flank and slaughtering them, launching night raids and slaughtering them, ambushing, pursuing enemies, slaughtering them, ravaging enemy camps, slaughtering them, assaulting enemy forts, slaughtering them, attacking enemy castles and slaughtering them, slaughtering towns, slaughtering villages. The emotion he felt during the time were joy and a sense of superiority. The superb tribe is superior. Humans are no match. Look, this one falls with a single blow. This one too. This one looks a bit tougher, but at most 3 or 4 hits. Weaklings. See, they're wiped out. Pathetic human warriors. Let's move. For Lord Laplace, let's crush the enemies. Show them the pride of the superb tribe. As he continued fighting, even those emotions faded away. It's like he's slowly losing himself in it. It's getting like slaughter, slaughter, slaughter. Haha, they're so weak, and eventually it's just kill, 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 kill. An enemy. Kill it. A human. Kill it. Wipe him out. Next. Why? Who cares? Kill the enemy. Did you hear? A superb village was attacked. Then the attackers are the enemy. They're the enemy. Look, they're trembling. They claim to be allies. They're screaming, asking why. Who cares? They're humans. Kill humans. Kill them all. Kill them all. Kill, kill, kill. Kill. And then the tragedy happened. I think at this point we're already in there. I think we're already there. I think right there where it's saying why, it's probably his family. After the tragedy, Richard Superdia enacted his revenge on Laplace. He intervened in the final battle between the human heroes and Laplace, leading the humans to victory. Wait. Oh, man. It was so good. Like, we're doing... This story was getting really good. I like how it was laying this out. We're Fujin. Well, bro, what are we doing? I like this build-up right here. Again, I assume right here is that build-up. Again, this is probably all from the perspective of Richard. I mean, it's doing a lot of third-person perspective because it keeps saying what Richard is doing. It's saying what they're doing. So it is a lot of it, like, outside of his bounds. It's not first-person. But it almost feels like right here it's going into the first person. And so it could just be an aspect where, yeah, he's getting more and more into the spear. And it's getting to this point where it's so simple to just kill. And again, he probably killed his family right here when he says, they asked why, who cares? They're all humans. And then it jumps straight to, he wants to get revenge. It's like this, there's a block there in his memories. I remember building up to the tragedy happening. But again, we've already had stories before told where he snapped to the moment that he killed his son. The finger was in his mouth. Like he was chewing on a finger. Yeah, Refusion, missed opportunity here. You're kind of jumping forward. I was liking how this is being told so far. Anyways, after the tragedy, Richard Superdia exacted his revenge on Laplace. He intervened in the final battle between the human heroes and Laplace, leading the humans to victory. After that, he returned once to the ruins of the Superb village. He burned the bodies, buried the bones, and then walked away from the desolate Superb village. After walking for a while, he looked back and saw the land where he was born and raised, a homeland with nothing and no one. Richard naturally looked down at his own hand. In his hand, there was no longer his spear. He had lost his pride and honor of the Superb tribe. Again, this kind of goes back to that whole, like, this is their culture, this is their traditions. Is a spear is your soul? He lost part of his soul because he put his spear down. And then he had this other spear. And eventually he has his son's spear. Like, he lost part of his soul back there. And that's why he lost himself and lost his pride as a Superb. It is definitely a symbolism here that you should never have put down the spear. That's why they always keep their spear. And the one time you stepped away from it, it led to your being cursed. This was the hand of a fool who had done something irreversible. The hand of someone who would be better off dead. There was nothing left. I was together with you. But in his other hand, there was a spear that represented the pride of the Superb tribe, their very soul. The owner of that spear was a hero. He was the hero who stopped the Superb tribe's warrior chief, who had been controlled by the cursed spear and had gone berserk, attacking his own allies and even his own family, and put an end to the tragedy. A hero who possessed everything Richard had lost. He admired strong warriors, never neglecting his own work, continuing to sharpen his fangs for the day that he would be called. The hero's name was revealed Superdia. It was also the name of Richard's son, whom he had never once praised or patted on the head. A son who respected his foolish father and strove to catch up to him. Even among the Superb tribe, he was small in stature, and the spear from his short tail was, as expected, a bit shorter. But he was by no means the weak soldier Richard had feared. He had stopped Richard, who had been greatly strengthened by the cursed spear, and brought him back to his senses. He never made it to the battlefield, but if he had, he would surely have become a great hero. Richard is not a person worthy of respect of such a hero. He had no honor or pride. Jeez, dude. This is getting depressing. I'm trying to get through this because it's too depressing. He had become arrogant since the days when people said, there is a Superb tribe in the Laplace army, and there is Richard in the Superb tribe. But he was no hero. But his son was different. He was a true hero of the Superb tribe. That is why Rajerd swore to that spear he must become the warrior his son had respected, and he must take responsibility for restoring the tribe's honor and pride, which his son would have surely achieved if he were alive. He had no idea what he should do to accomplish this, but looking at the spearhead and recalling the times when it swayed vigorously, he tightened his grip and simply made a vow. No matter how many years it takes, he will surely cleanse the superb tribe's tarnished name. Recalling the times that it swayed vigorously. I'm thinking about this tail wagging. I'm thinking about this. It could be like him, stabbing the spear at Rajerd as they're training or whatever. But it's probably the spearhead, when it was his tail, was swaying vigorously. Oh my god, what a depressing story. Holy crap. I like this. I actually really like that story. Again, we kind of know all the aspects of this story about the fact of, again, him being like this key point to Laplace's army, at some point getting offered the spears, him taking up the spears, they all get cursed, they go crazy. Eventually, they're told to go to this superb tribe, and because he's afraid that he's going to betray them, he's told to go there, and then it ends up being his family. He killed them all. And then when he snaps out of it, because his son stops him, when he snaps out of it, they're literally surrounded and they're being snuffed out by Laplace. And then they have to basically flee. And he wasn't sure exactly how many of them survived. And this is kind of giving a lot more context. And again, I like how it portrays the downfall of him, that slow loss of sanity. It just sucks that it jumps forward to, and he beats Laplace. I want to see a little bit more of that, moment of him and his son. But again, we technically know that part, so it's good stuff. It's good stuff. I think I'm going to stop there. We are 2/3 the way. Again, I kind of mapped this out to possibly doing 3 parts or doing 2 parts. And I'm at the point now where we'd be if I was doing 3 parts. And I think we're at a good recording point right here. It might not be like an extremely long Mushoku Monday, but I think it'll be a healthy one. So we'll do 3 parts, again, for these side stories, unless something else pops up that I want to cover. But I think this is a good 1 of 3 parts to round out these extra stories and eventually get to the rest of them. But I hope you guys enjoy this Mushoku Monday. As always, thank you guys so much for joining me. Again, those are really good little stories here. Again, this ended up being a Rajerd episode. It kind of just worked out that way, that these were 2 Rajerd stories, and we can potentially have that be its own thing. I know that some of the stories is some about Roxy. I think there's one about Nanahoshi, but I'm excited to get through them at this point. Again, thanks to Lucius for selecting these stories. Again, people in the chat, everybody gives thanks to Lucius for all of his efforts here and kind of giving a little bit of creation to some possibilities here for some stories, but I greatly appreciate it. With that all said, again, I thank you guys for dropping by for the premiere. Hey, chat, hope you guys had fun. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week after Mushoku Monday ends, but I greatly appreciate your guys' kind words, your support, all that stuff. Thank you so much. But most importantly, I greatly appreciate everybody's support channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super links, memberships, all that stuff. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But until the next Mushoku Monday, y'all take care. Children grow up fast. By the time the demon god's army began to slowly expand its territory into the central continent, revealed, oh my god, I can't say that name that many times, Revealed's tail had begun to harden. But the one offering these spears was none other than Laplace. But the one offering these spears was none other than Laplace. But the one offering these spears was none other than Laplace. But the one offering these spears was none other than Laplace. Was none other than Laplace.